We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Sex People! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey, Trent.
Hi, Parth. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I was going to say we're entering into this episode with a special day.
I hate to have given away your punchline, but it's your birthday. By the time the episode's released, it'll be days past that point, but right now we can relish.
Yes.
Relish and mustard and ketchup, you know.
I've completed 22 years around the sun.
How has it been so far? Have you learned anything?
I was on the phone with Sophia last night, like, as it was going to turn into my birthday, and she was like, any last words for your 21st year? And I was like, my 21st year was pretty good. Like, probably one of my best years. So, like, that's a good thing, you know? So, going in to my 22nd year, pretty
Optimistic?
positively. Yeah.
That's good. It's hard to... I've never been able to reflect at the end of a year and been like, this was a good year or this was a bad year. But I guess in terms of how much fun you're supposed to have at different phases of your life, I think at least theoretically this is supposed to be an influx.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're living out the American dream, more or less.
But speaking of an influx, sort of things entering in and eventually leaving out.
And eventually fluxing. Yeah.
Yeah. What have you been eating most recently?
I had to think about it because I haven't eaten anything today because it's the morning time. But I scratched my brain, and last night we had our final HelloFresh meal, and it was one pan, easy preparation tortillas. Quesadillas.
Very nice.
But yeah, my parents have been gracious enough to give us HelloFresh for the past few months, but this was the last one because
you're moving out soon.
End of the school year, moving out, studying abroad. They don't want to pay for it anymore. Bunch of things.
Very nice.
What about you?
As it's my birthday, a friend of the show and roommate of mine, Chloe Ditloff.
From the King of Staten Island episode?
Yes. And Drunk Pod.
Yep.
Gave me a little birthday present. When I opened the fridge, I saw Happy Birthday, Parth. That note on top of a bowl, an acai bowl from Pliables.
Wow, that's kind of like the best thing I've ever heard.
I know, and I had that for like, I guess like brunch-ish, and it was very good.
I feel like acai is a fake word. What is that? Is that like the berry, like reddish, purplish?
That's
like
I mean, that's what I have, but Trent, I could not tell you.
That's what I have as well. I get half acai, half coconut, because I like to use coconut because it's a real word, unlike acai. It probably is, but I like to throw stones. It's only come into the public consciousness in the past, 10 years. So we've really felt the before and after of acai. Do you think Pliables and, that whole craze will go, like frozen yogurt, or do you think
I feel like it's gone. I feel like it hit its max already.
I agree it's on it's, on a slow decline. But,
but I mean, as far as it not being there at all anymore, that I don't know. But I remember when it was we're gonna go to Pliables.
I remember when it was we're gonna go get frozen yogurt and then we're gonna weigh it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
We should base all of our food off of weight.
Yeah.
I can feel you wanting to transition.
It's not just that I want to transition, it's that I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, you keep trying to find a way in.
I keep trying to what do we say that'll just get us. Do you
want me to throw you a softball?
Yeah.
I've just been having this thing recently where I can't focus unless I hear a really good, concise, succinct 15 to 20 second jingle. Before I talk about a film or interview someone, I just like to get in the zone, and there's really only one way.
Trent, I mean, I have good news for you.
Really?
I'm
talking to the right person?
You're talking to the right person that can cue the intro. Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience working on the picture. This week, we are on our third and final part of our interview with
Mark Andrews, the head of story for our film Brad Bird's The Incredibles, and he's worked on such other projects as Samurai Jack, Iron Giant, and he is our second Academy Award-winning guest, and he was the co-director on Brave, which won Best Animated Feature Film. And we talked to him about a whole array of topics.
Yeah, and you'll get to hear in this section of the interview, he gives, I think, our longest answer to what's the last great film you've watched.
He just, kept going.
Yeah, I was very surprised that he remembered so many of the movies that he liked so much recently. But, we like a long answer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is our third part. The last two parts are up right now. You should go listen to those if you haven't already. But if you would rather just stay here.
It'd probably be a logical, build up to this.
Yes. But you could always sort of do like a Christopher Nolan type of thing. And it's just
Memento.
sort of out of order.
Yeah, the sideways parabola.
Yes. Wow, you remembered. Yeah, so I don't know. Is there anything we should do before cutting into this interview?
No. Have an incredible time. See what I did there. Stick around until the end. Parth and I will tell you what's coming up next.
And so, without further ado, here's our final part of our Mark Andrews interview. Cue the interview.
So I'm pretty kind of amazed to hear that when you start talking about the correction in Incredibles, I was like, no way that this is a common thing. And then you said that your other movies too, they just needed some resetting. So is this happening in pre-production and someone's like, the script isn't all the way there yet and we're trying to figure it out? Or is it like you're handed the script and then collectively everyone's like, emergency mode, we need to make big changes?
Sure. Right. That's a great question. There's no magic bullet, ultimately, at the end of the day. And everybody thinks that there is. Everybody's trying to head off the pain and agony it is to tell a story, right? So that's why we check the outline, right? First, you have to do an outline. Is the outline working? How do you know if the outline's working? It's not the film. Let's do a script. The script. Does the script working? How do you know a script's working? The script is not the fucking film. All the people who win Academy Awards for Best Adapted Screenplay and Original Screenplay, it's a lie. It's not their work. I mean, talented writers, absolutely, for sure, but that's not what you're seeing on screen. That's not the script that greenlit the film that people start working at, that the editor changed, the actors changed, you found stuff as you were doing it, right? What everybody's reading in the Academy is the conformed script, right? So the script isn't the movie. The only thing that's the movie is the movie, right? It's like a doctor. You're coughing. What's wrong? I've got a cough. So you're unwell. That's correct. How do you make me better? The doctor doesn't go take a couple aspirin and call me in the morning, right? The doctor investigates. Where is it coming from? This, that, and the other thing. Right? They got to get in there and understand how you're sick, right? We have to do the story completely in as much context as we can. Like Steve Jobs said when he walks out, why don't we just show that? He said that because he just saw a movie. He didn't say storyboards. It was an assembly of pictures. It wasn't a slideshow. He got it because Brad throws in all the context. I get very passionate about talking about this because this is the thing about
awesome.
Making stories. The more you can get to the context, the more you could actually make the movie, not a previs of the movie, not a ghost of the movie, not a rough of the, make the goddamn movie. Then you can look and see that what it needs, right? Because you're looking at it in context. You could give me all the notes on the script that you possibly can. It's not going to make it any better. Sure, some things will show, right? It will point some things out, and everything's outline, script, storyboard, something's going to show. Absolutely. Because in each case, you're adding more and more context, but you're not complete yet, right? So you have to find a method that lets you make the movie almost completely done. So all the important stuff that is actually the ingredients of making a good story, then you can actually truly evaluate what you have, right? And say, this is great or this isn't working. Because then those notes get surgical. They're not general, like the super general note of, your hero isn't likable. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That makes, because you haven't seen the movie. We haven't shown you that, you know what I mean? I mean, a camera move after somebody says, you know, Trent, your cat died, right? In a storyboard, if you don't have that camera move, it may fall flat, right? But if you have that camera move pushing in, so I can relate to this pain and what you possibly thinking right now, right? In the midst of you on a date, all of a sudden it works, right? You don't need to second guess it. And that's what 80% of the notes in the industry are second guessing because there's not enough context, right? So it's a big deal that filmmakers and storytellers, we have to go through these notes, right? And I disagree, you know. And so we did this thing at Pixar and Brave, right? So I'm doing Brave. There's this great thing, actually, for good and bad. It's a double-edged sword. When you open up your story so that everybody who works at the company can take a shot at you, right? Anybody can give notes, right? We're all inclusive. Anybody give notes, right? Most people aren't storytellers, right? So they don't give good notes, right? And so we showed the first thing in Brave, and I got a stack of paper that was about 4 feet tall. Individual emails that came in all printed out, right? And I start reading them, and everything is negative. I didn't like. You know what you could do instead? It's like, that isn't helpful, right? That doesn't point me to any direction. Anybody could not like something, right? Not liking something is not a good note, right? It's the most awful note you could possibly give, and it is not constructive. And neither is, I like it. That's not a good note either. You know, if you like it, great. Somebody else could not like it, and then where are you? It's a zero-sum game. So I worked with my fantastic PA, story manager, coordinator, who had to cull through all these notes. I said, this is what I want. What did you like? What didn't you like? Where were you confused? Right? And that was the email we sent out to anybody to teach people how to give notes, right? That this is we're going to format the feedback, right? In this very simple thing that when you give notes, you go to this thing at Pixar and you pull up this file that has those 3 questions, right? And guess what I did? I cut out those first 2 damn questions. I ignored them completely. Did you like it? Did you not like it? So all I was left with was, where were you confused? Because that is not subjective. It's completely objective. I didn't get it, right? I didn't get it because you hated it, you know? And so then that really showed when we were like 3 months away. It was after the Christmas screening, and we were coming out that next summer in 12, right? So this is the end of 2011. We got these notes back, and it boiled down to the magic of the witch, the magic of the spell, and Mor'du seem as 3 separate things. How are they come together? That was the biggest confusion. They didn't understand the mechanics of how that worked, right? So that's where I poured all my concentration into, is make them one and the same story. Mor'du's story is Marathe's story. If Marathe's story didn't succeed, Mom would have just turned and became a real bear, right? And that's a curse. Just like Mor'du became a real bear, he was cursed, right? It's the same story. They both went to the fucking witch. There's the connection of there, right? And then the story that the mother told about this brother that didn't go along with all that stuff. I put it all together so that legends were, I just wove it and put it all together to make it make sense, instead of being 3 different cool ideas, right? We had to have that. And that's what Pixar kind of adopted from, going here on out, right? And that's how I look at getting notes, is where's the confusion, because that's the real note.
Awesome. I guess I just wanted to move past to The Incredibles slightly.
Sure, let's go.
You have a long working relationship with Gennady Tartakovsky.
Gennady Tartakovsky, yes. Gennady Tartakovsky. That double N throws people, but it's just a Gennady. It's a Russian N. Gennady Tartakovsky. Yeah.
So you worked on Samurai Jack and Primal, and I just wanted anything about him and those working experiences, because I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah. So Gendy and I met at Cal Arts. He was an underclassman. I was a sophomore. He was a freshman, right? So in comes this kid, and he likes cartoons. He was doing Dexter's Laboratory, started at Cal Arts. It was one of his final year films, and it's funny, and he has that very, super cartoony, stylistic kind of style, which is completely different from my style. I'm like trying to do Frank Frazetta and Marvel's comics, and again, lift and push and do my, Katashiro Otomo and, Masamune Shiro, Appleseed and Ghost in the Shell. That's what I'm trying to do, right? That's where my drawing style is. And so completely different. And so when he was at Cartoon Network and he started Samurai Jack, I remember him telling me what it was. I'm all, I bored some of this. This sounds awesome, right? It's an action adventure thing about the samurai wandering around in the distant future. Sign me up. And so I did, right? Gendy would say, hey, we want to do this episode? And I'm all, yeah. So he came up with the Scotsman, but I made the Scotsman. And it was supposed to be a joke because I'm Scottish, right? So he was having fun with a machine gun peg leg and all that, but it's pantomime. There's not a lot of dialogue in a Genndy Tartakovsky animated show, right? And it's because Gendy understands the power of visual storytelling, and he's a visual storyteller, right? He has his style that I don't always agree with, when it comes to, cinema and camera moves and stuff like this, but 90% of what I do, what he does, hits on the same level, right? And again, it was TV and he needed it fast, and I turn around this stuff really, really quickly. So I did 5 episodes for Gendy on that. And then Gendy got approached by George Lucas to do the animated 2D Clone Wars, right? Which were going to be bumpers, these little bumper pieces. That's why it wasn't a real series, right? They were just going to be bumpers in between shows to keep people amped up about the next movie. And so he employed my brother and I to do them. So it was just me, Gendy, and Brian coming up with ideas of what we wanted to see, being Star Wars fans, and we did it. 2 seasons of that. So my brother and I boarded the whole first 1 to 10 episodes, and then I got to do some on the second season. As Gendy was getting more into, now I'm going to tell more of a coherent story that has these ins and outs and stuff like this versus just kind of episodes or happenings. But that was a blast, and that kicked off the 3D animated Star Wars craze with Dave Filoni, right? So, and then when Gendy came around, I mean, I love, if all the listeners haven't seen Symbiotic Titan, see it, because it is the best thing ever. It was an amazing show, 1 season, and that was it. And it should have gone on forever because it was fantastic. My brother was one of the head guys on that with Gendy, knocking it out of the park. So when Primal came along and Gendy said, you want to do an episode? I'm all, of course I want to do an episode, right? So he's all, okay, I want this to be the most violent animated episode ever seen on TV. I'm all, you got it. And he had already worked out the story, what needed to happen, but it's very open-ended. He's all, this is this, and this is this, and this is this. And I'm all, okay, great. That's all I need. And I write the rest, right? I have an Emmy, thanks to Gendy, for Star Wars Clone Wars, right? So he gives me, he trusts my storytelling skills, right? He knows that, so he could be an audience member. He can look at it and dig it, or not. He can be objective. And it's almost one and done with him. I do it. He may tweak a little bit here and there, and then it airs. And that's what taught me how to do stories, because you get this instant feedback on TV, right? People watch and go, I like the episode. I didn't like the episode. You just go, whoa, okay. That's real feedback, and it's faster than doing, feature animated films. But so I turned in my storyboard, to Gendy for my primal episode called Red Mist. And he had me pull it back because it was too violent. So everybody go watch Red Mist. And then I'll someday catch up with me, and I'll show you what it really was. So he pulled it back just a little bit because it was too much. But I love working with Gendy. He's like Brad, as he has a vision, of what the story, and there's his kind of style, and I'm just glad our styles mesh, and we have that same, second hand. He goes, and I'm like, yeah, no, I got you, done, and off I go. Or I say, I want to do this, and he goes, that's great, give it to me, that happens. So that's a rarity. So once you find it in the business, you're just attracted to it over and over and over,
So this is based on sort of the frustration you expressed earlier about how just in the world animators are often pigeonholed into like G-rated material. And when you are working on a G-rated project, I'm sure this is among a lot of storyboard artists in general, but is there a way in particular that you are trying to like inject maturity into something designed for kids, or are you just trying to make it like as elegant as possible to like elevate it, or is it through like this hidden jokes for the parents, or if you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to go watch it, so I don't make things for an audience. I make it for me. I want to see it, right? And I think the fact that, relatability for people, if I'm entertained, everybody else and their brother and sister and mother and father are going to be entertained. You know what I mean? My particular taste may not fly for everybody, but those that they do, they're going to come see my stuff, right? And they're going to get 110% out of it. So yeah, I'm constantly pushing that envelope in animation. I mean, The Incredibles opens up with a guy leaning out a car with a machine gun firing at a police crew.
Yeah.
That is
and
violent.
And an attempted suicide
attempt.
attempt.
And an attempted suicide. We're shooting at kids. Everybody at Pixar was so fucking worried. They're, oh my gosh, you're shooting at kids. They've done Toy Story. There are no guns in Toy Story. No guns in Bug's Life. Finding Nemo. There's that. It's a there are elements that come with baggage, right? And pain and agony has baggage. The threat of bodily harm has baggage that are incredible storytelling tools, right? And it's not just about your emotions, right? I'm jealous. Who cares, right? The gang member doesn't care if you're jealous, that your girlfriend isn't as pretty as his girlfriend, or who you are as a person. That guy's going to come over and he's going to crush you, right? Holy crap, now we're in a story. How do I survive, right? So those are the kind of stories that I want to tell, that what I'm drawn to. And anytime that I can insert kind of these moments and get them to work, right? It's not like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the audience. It's never that. It's like, this would be cool here, because it is, because it elevates it. It raises the stakes, There's something more visceral, And to me, that visceral feeling that you get, that edge of the seat, that worry, right? That I'm scared for them, right? I am concerned, right? But Mr. Incredible's fighting the Omnidroid. You're kind of laughing at the design until it punches his arm and it cuts right through his suit and he's now bleeding. You're going, oh shit, dude. That C-note change is what I'm looking for all the time out of every scene, right? That's what you want, and kids can take it. I know, because I was a kid watching R-rated films. You know what I mean? I don't need to be pandered to, and that's the problem with the cinema today and animated for children and kids is these are opportunity. I don't know if anybody's read Grimm's fairy tales, but they're sadistic. They're not cute. And that's what the kids were reading back then in the day. Fairy tales are sadistic. You know why? So you can teach the kids about deception and betrayal, right? That's what you need so they can be aware of when somebody's conning them or has ulterior motives. Not, here's Binky and Bobby and they get along and it's just funny and charming because they look silly. You know what I mean? It's a disservice. The best compliment I got was when somebody came up to me and said, that bear was really scary. You made it really scary. My kid had nightmares for a week. I'm all fucking good. Because you know what? I showed a child in a deep, dark hole getting attacked by a demon monster and get out on her own without her parents' help. So what does that tell the kid who sees that? I can get out of trouble on my own without the parents' help, right? It's giving them a sense of independence instead of keeping them protected. So that's my own vigil as I try to make stories in this kid's story world. Is I don't want to hold back. I don't want to put on gloves, and treat the kids like they're delicate little angels. Let's tell them the truth as much as we can, right?
Yeah. Trent, do you think maybe it's time for a Big Kahuna final question, or is there...
Big Kahuna final question? We've hit the Big Kahuna final question round, players.
Parth, I think it's time for the Big Kahuna final question.
Yeah, yes, I saw it in your eyes, Trent. I saw it.
Yeah, so our Big Kahuna final question is just, what is the last great film you watched? And it can be a rewatch or a first-time viewing, but it has to be great.
That's a trick question. Good one. Boy, what's the last great film that I just recently watched? And now I have to go through my index because I usually watch something and then throw it away. I didn't know I was going to be asked this. I didn't know there was going to be a test. What were we just watching? I was just watching something with the family that we'd seen, that we always go back to. We have our family faves that we always go back to. And it's just, it's going to be so weird answer. Talladega Nights. I love that movie. It is so good. It's so funny. It is not a cinematic wonder, at all, to say the least. But it's a fantastic movie because the timing, the characters, the editing, the ad-libbing that they do and finding the choicest stuff and be able to tell a story that is, you feel for the guy. He had a misconception that he grew up with his entire life, and he had to find who the real him was, it's a great heartfelt, with Sacha Baron Cohen pretending to be French. Highlander, I saw your Highlander. It is shit. I mean, it is fantastic. It is. I haven't laughed so hard, and so that's the most recent great film. It was just on. My wife was flipping through the channels. We were in Chicago for my son's. He's out freshman in college out there, his first spring break. So we went out there and we were just staying up, and she was flipping through watching. We land on Talladega and watch the rest of it from wherever it was in, And if if you're doing that, that passes the great test, that if it comes on, you cannot not turn it off. You have to watch it,
I know that Christopher Nolan said that it's one of his favorite films. So if it's good enough for Nolan,
See, it is hilarious. It is deadly, deadly funny. The whole baby Jesus at the dinner table, them saying prayer is just classic. Another great one he was in that has the same kind of thing that is now our new family favorite is Eurovision, the song of the Fire and Ice Saga. I haven't laughed so hard since I saw Talladega Nights. It is hilarious. It has that same heart, done incredibly well, and as funny as all get out. So if nobody totally missed and overlooked because it didn't come out in theaters, but it should have. It was amazing. Great job, everybody who did that. Will Ferrell and Rachel Adams. I mean, she is a funny lady, and she doesn't get to do that enough. She's the straight man to Will Ferrell's, off the hook, comedy gold. Those two. That was great. Everybody was fantastic. So that was one. Speaking of Christopher Nolan, his finest film that I think is his masterpiece is The Prestige. Right. Whenever that's on, I cannot not watch that whole thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's the sleeper hit in his.
It is.
Filmography.
It absolutely is. I had a chance to meet Hugh Jackman, and I told him that to his face. Wow. He gave me a big hug. And it meant a lot to him. And I also told him that Real Steel was a fucking amazing film that just got looked over, and I want my Real Steel 2 now. With him in it, I direct the shit out of that. But I mean, what a great film. Parent and child, story, just like Brave was. This was father and son, but parent and child, it was really emotional. And what a great world. Gigantic robot cyborgs battling it out. I mean, that's as anime as you can possibly get, It was fantastic. But that, what did I just see? Everything Everywhere All at Once, I loved. That was fantastic. Genius film, and those guys just got to do whatever they wanted, and that doesn't happen often. You're just kind of left alone, that kind of low budget indie kind of thing, and they just said fuck it, and they did stuff that they wanted to do, and that's honesty that I think is missing from a lot of films out there. It suddenly gets too studioized, and everybody has their input because it needs to make a certain amount of gazillion dollars. I mean, look at all these superhero movies that are failing, Ant-Man, right? Shazam 2, Black Adam, sorry guys, I love you all who work on those movies and are in those movies, but the honesty, the I'm not even going to call it integrity, the genuineness, right, of I just want to tell a good story is totally blindsided by it needs to be a huge amount of hit because we're putting a lot of money in this, right? Bamboozle people out of their cash, right? Versus something like Everywhere All the Time.
Yeah, we got to talk to we got to talk to the cinematographer of that movie.
Awesome. And, what a great job.
Yeah.
Just
seemed really
so
cool.
so inventive and great, So I like that one. I even thought it's more subdued, but The Banshees of Inisherin is excellent. That was a fantastic movie that really got me. What a simple story. And he's a playwright. So there's a quality to his stuff, like in Bruges and his other movies that if you haven't seen his plays, go see his plays. The Lieutenant of Innisfree and then The Ferryman and all of his plays. They have that great quality where it catches you off guard. It's very simple stories, but they catch you off guard. And there's such a great message, a more complex issue that he's kind of tackling. And then I loved All Quiet on the Western Front. I thought that was masterful. It was just a brilliant version of it. I'm glad they did it, and updated it to now. I mean, it needed to be up here with the Saving Private Ryans and Platoons and, the great war movies that we have, since the 80s, right? The 2000s.
Yeah, I'm thank you so much, Mark Andrews. He's worked on such
Thank you,
projects
guys.
as Samurai Jack and the Iron Giant and Brave, for which he won the Academy Award, and he was head of story for our film today, Brad Bird's The Incredibles. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Everybody make sure you go and watch Super Giant Robot Brothers on Netflix and get me a second season, gang. Come on,
Yes,
we can
please.
do it.
We can do it.
What an interview.
What an interview. This is it for us and Mark Andrews, at least for the time being.
Yeah, maybe we'll have him on in the future when he's working on one of his many cool projects that he told us before and after the interview, which you would just have to talk with us in person to maybe find out what he was talking about. But
Maybe.
yeah, I mean, we'll see if you're cool, if you can hang, haha. But yeah, I think this is one of our better interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Good enough and long enough to break up into 3 parts and buy us a month of time to postpone getting additional interviews, which now, after next week, we officially need to scramble and do.
Yes.
Not to put ourselves under a spotlight, but
yeah, we here at Craft Services have been sort of running by the seat of our pants.
Running on fumes.
Yes.
I feel like it ebbs and flows with how prepared / panicked we are.
But I think for the listeners, there's been no
hiccup.
Yeah, when was the last time we took a break? I don't even remember.
I feel. I mean, we'd have to scroll through our Spotify release dates, but I feel I feel like the more recent and more realistic thing is probably the most recent problem was like me not editing on a Sunday and releasing it on like a Monday or Tuesday. But that's just a minor inconvenience for the fans at home. Not having to wait a full week. Now that's basically torture. I don't know. Like I can't
remember the last time we took like a break, Sorry, did you like the yawn?
Remember when we took a month break?
Yeah, we did that last year.
I can't remember what prompted it. Were we gathering interviews?
Yeah, what was happening was that was over winter break, and so we were like, we just won't release some of the interviews we have lined up. We'll take 3 weeks off. And during that, we got, I think our first thing back was the Scott Pilgrim interview, which was also split into 3 parts.
Yeah, that was when we had or you had rather, it was shared with me though. The Google Sheets of like the whole year in advance.
I still use that with movies that I think I'd like to cover. But yeah. Let's just say there's been some interviews I've tried very hard to get to kind of no avail. But I am confident we will have something for you guys.
Something. We've always scraped something together in the past.
But we will definitely have an episode for you next week because we will be discussing our movie of the last 3 weeks, The Incredibles.
I'm super excited.
I'm very excited. We should watch The Incredibles together.
The fans at home, you can find it on Disney
Plus or Parth's Voodoo account.
Or you can just ask Parth for his iTunes information and just get, and just carry that shit around with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Parth, it'll be like when you were 3 when we're watching the scene where they break into the jewelry store. Freeze.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's it. Huh?
I guess that's it. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, ? Wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Craft Services Pod. If I seem to be losing Parth's interest, it's his birthday, he can do whatever he wants. You're gonna want to give us a 5-star review, maybe write something nice as well. Even 4 stars would be fine. Is there anything I'm missing?
No, I think you've covered it all. Thank you so much for listening and for listening the past 2 weeks and this week and just for listening in general to all of our fans and listeners. We work really hard. We try to put out a good product for you and we appreciate those of you that turn up. Thank you so much to Mark Andrews. very nice man, we can finally send him an email saying all the episodes are out. And you can catch us next week, no?
You can catch us next week, and God willing, hopefully the week after that. And let's end the episode like that.
Yeah. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, Parth. Well, I'll see you in Seattle, if you know what I mean.
Okay.